And if you made it this far, you're probably someone who thinks deeply about these things. Subscribe, because this channel is built for people like you. What happens when men finally stop chasing women? Imagine a man wakes up one Tuesday morning, makes his coffee, and decides, quietly, without drama, without a breakup speech, without a manifesto posted online, that he is simply done. Done texting first. Done planning dates that feel like job interviews. Done performing enthusiasm for someone who texted back 3 hours late with, "Lol, sorry, been busy." He doesn't announce it. He doesn't go on Reddit to explain himself. He doesn't post a cryptic quote on his Instagram story. He just stops. And here's the part nobody talks about. Everything changes, not just for him, for her, for the dynamic, for the entire invisible architecture of the relationship that was quietly, unconsciously built on the assumption that he would always chase. This video isn't about playing games. It isn't about manipulation tactics or pickup artist nonsense dressed up in philosophical clothing. This is about something much more uncomfortable than that. This is about what happens when a man genuinely, finally, completely stops making himself available to someone who never fully chose him, and what that moment reveals about modern relationships, about women, about men, and about the quiet desperation most of us have been conditioned to call romance. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you're either going to feel deeply seen or deeply challenged. And either way, you needed to hear it. Picture this. Marcus is 31. He's not a bad-looking guy. He's got a decent job, a dry sense of humor, and a genuinely kind heart, the kind that his mother is proud of, and that women describe as sweet right before they choose someone else. He's been talking to a woman named Jade for about 4 months. They've been on maybe 5 or 6 dates. The conversation is good when they're together. She laughs at his jokes. She touches his arm at the right moments. She texts him cute things when she's bored, but she never initiates plans. She's always kind of busy when he suggests the weekend. She posts Instagram stories at 11 p.m. on Friday nights from bars and brunches he wasn't invited to. And every time Marcus feels the distance and tries to close it, a longer text, a more thoughtful date idea, a vulnerable admission, she softens just enough to keep him there, just enough warmth to prevent him from leaving, not enough heat to make it a real fire. One night, Marcus is sitting with his phone in his hand, watching the typing bubble appear and disappear for the 6th time before she sends him a single-word reply to a paragraph he spent 10 minutes writing. And something in him just goes quiet. Not angry, not bitter, quiet. He puts the phone down. He doesn't respond. He goes to bed. The next day, he doesn't text her good morning, which he had done without fail every single morning for 4 months. He just goes about his day. He goes to the gym. He calls his friend. He cooks a proper meal. He reads a book he'd been neglecting. 3 days pass. Jade texts him, "Hey, haven't heard from you. You okay?" And that right there, that tiny message, reveals everything that was broken about the dynamic she had constructed and that he had consented to. Because she wasn't wondering if he was okay. She was wondering why the warmth had stopped radiating in her direction. The observation. Here is the uncomfortable truth that most people will scroll past rather than sit with. A lot of modern relationships aren't relationships. They're arrangements. And one person usually holds all the leverage, not because they're more attractive, not because they're smarter, not because they deserve it, but simply because they care less. Sociologists and psychologists have studied this for decades under various names. The principle of least interest, emotional asymmetry, anxious avoidant attachment dynamics. But you don't need academic language to feel it in your gut when you're living it. The person who cares more does more. Texts more, plans more, thinks about it more at 2 a.m., makes themselves smaller to avoid conflict, celebrates the breadcrumbs, rationalizes the distance, and the person who cares less, they don't even have to try. The system maintains itself. What Marcus stumbled into, not through strategy but through exhaustion, was the simple act of withdrawing his investment. And suddenly the invisible machinery that ran the entire dynamic became visible. Because here's what most people don't realize. When you stop chasing someone, you don't lose the relationship. You reveal whether there ever was one. The cultural breakdown. We need to talk about the world these dynamics are born in, because this isn't just about individual people making individual choices. This is a systemic, culturally manufactured problem, and social media and dating apps have poured gasoline on a fire that was already burning. Think about what modern dating culture has actually created. Dating apps have turned human connection into a marketplace. And in any marketplace, the person with more options has more power. Studies have consistently shown that on platforms like Tinder and Hinge, the top 10 to 20% of users, predominantly attractive women, receive the overwhelming majority of matches, likes, and messages. What does this create? An entire generation of men socialize to compete, to stand out, to be funnier, to be more interesting, to upgrade their photos, to write the perfect opening line, while an entire generation of women are socialized to evaluate, to scroll, to keep options open, to never fully commit because what if something better is 3 swipes away? This isn't an attack on women. Let me be absolutely clear about that. This is an attack on a system that has distorted the natural relational instincts of both sexes and left everyone lonelier than they've ever been. Men are performing, women are overwhelmed. Nobody is being chosen. Nobody is doing the choosing. And the apps are making billions off the anxiety in between. Then add social media to the equation. A woman in 2025 doesn't just exist in her local social ecosystem. She exists in front of an audience. Followers, admirers, men sliding into DMs at every tier of attractiveness. She has what researchers call ambient social approval, a continuous low-level drip of validation that used to require in-person social effort to obtain. This changes the neurochemistry of attention. When validation is abundant and cheap, the scarcity of any individual man's attention doesn't register the way it once did. His good morning texts get buried under 40 Instagram likes before 9 a.m. He has become background noise in a very loud room. And men, good men, emotionally available men, have slowly been trained to chase louder and longer just to be heard, to overfunction, to perform, until something in them breaks or wakes up, which, depending on how you look at it, might be the same thing. The chase is a signal, not a virtue. We have romanticized the masculine pursuit to the point of psychological harm. Movies, songs, literature, all of it tells men that persistence is love. That if you just try hard enough, if you just prove yourself sufficiently, the woman will finally see your worth and the story will resolve into a beautiful relationship. This is a lie, not because pursuit is wrong, but because relentless pursuit of someone who isn't reciprocating, isn't romantic, it's self-erasure. When a man chases endlessly, he isn't showing love. He's showing anxiety. He's communicating, I don't believe I'm enough unless I earn your attention. And on a subconscious level, the person being chased picks up on this signal, not as love, as need, as pressure, as something to manage rather than embrace. There is a painful counterintuitive truth buried here. The more desperately you pursue someone who isn't choosing you, the less attractive you become to them. Not because you're unworthy, but because you're teaching them how to see you. When Marcus stopped texting Jade good morning, he didn't become a worse person overnight. He became almost instantly more interesting to her, not because of games, because the absence of his constant availability forced her to confront a question she had been successfully avoiding for 4 months. Do I actually want this person? Or did I just want the option of this person? Those are two very different things. And most people in modern dating have never had to answer that question because the person they were stringing along never stopped being available long enough to make the question necessary. Women feel the withdrawal more than they expect to. Here is where this gets genuinely fascinating and where a lot of women in the comments are going to feel deeply uncomfortable. There's a phenomenon that plays out with almost mechanical regularity. When a man finally stops chasing, the woman notices she comes back, often with more energy, more warmth, more apparent interest than she had shown in weeks or months. And this baffles the man. He thinks, where was this person the entire time I was showing up for her? But it isn't manipulation on her part. Not usually. What's actually happening is more complex and, if anything, sadder. For many women, especially those who have been socialized in an environment of high attention and ambient validation, a man's consistent pursuit registers not as romantic interest, but as availability. It becomes ambient, like background music you stop consciously hearing. It is only when the music stops that the room feels suddenly, unexpectedly quiet. And in that quiet, something real surfaces. Oh, I actually liked having him around. I actually liked being seen by this specific person. But here's the tragedy, and it is a tragedy. By the time she realizes what she had, he has usually stopped wanting to give it, not out of spite, out of growth, out of the quiet revolution that happens inside a man when he spends a week not chasing anyone and rediscovers what it feels like to belong to himself. Let me give you another scene. Daniel has been in what he calls a situationship for 8 months. They sleep together when she visits his apartment, always his apartment, always when it's convenient for her schedule. They have meals together, deep conversations. He has met some of her friends, but they are not together. She has made that clear in the soft, deniable way that modern women have perfected. Never an explicit rejection, always a strategic ambiguity. I'm just in a complicated place right now. I don't want to label things. Let's just see where this goes. Daniel has been seeing where this goes for 8 months. It has gone nowhere. One evening, a woman he met through work asks him to dinner, unambiguously, clearly as a date. He says yes. He tells the situationship woman about it, not cruelly, not strategically. He just mentions it honestly. Her reaction surprises them both. She is upset, not casually uncomfortable, actually upset. She starts talking about their connection, about how she thought they had something real, about how she just needed more time. Daniel, to his credit, is kind but clear. I've been here for 8 months. You've had more time than most people give their therapists. The look on her face in that moment, the realization that the man who was always there had made a choice, is something Daniel later describes as the first genuinely honest moment they'd had together in 8 months. The situationship ended. The date with the woman from work became a relationship, a real one, built on mutual choosing. And here is what that story teaches us. Availability without standards doesn't create love. It creates furniture, and nobody fights to keep furniture until someone suggests throwing it out. The deeper truth. We need to go deeper now. Because everything we've discussed so far is about the mechanics of individual dynamics. But there's a deeper cultural current underneath all of it. Men have been sold a story about their role in romantic relationships for a very long time. The story goes like this: you must earn love. Love is something women give and men receive in exchange for demonstration of value. Your job is to demonstrate. Hers is to evaluate. You chase. She chooses. That's the natural order. And for much of human history, there was a version of this that made structural sense, because marriage was as much an economic and social contract as it was a romantic one. Men provided material resources. Women provided domestic labor and children. The system was transactional, often exploitative, and imperfect in ways we've rightly moved away from. But here's what we didn't do when we dismantled the old structure. We kept the emotional labor requirements on the men without keeping the corresponding benefits. Men are still expected to initiate, to pursue, to plan, to express interest first, to handle rejection gracefully, to upgrade themselves continuously to be considered worthy, while simultaneously being told that these expectations are unhealthy or regressive if they dare to name them. The result is a generation of men who are exhausted, not from doing too little, but from doing too much for too long for too little return. When these men finally stop, when the marathon runner sits down on the road and simply refuses to continue, they are accused of going on strike, of being petulant, of having given up on relationships. But some of them haven't given up on relationships. They've given up on the performance of relationships, which is a very different and much healthier thing. Here's withdrawal information, not punishment. Here's what needs to be understood by women, but also by men themselves. When a man stops chasing, it isn't a weapon, it isn't a strategy. In its most authentic form, it is simply a man returning to himself. Men who chase obsessively are often men who have been taught that their worth is conditional, that they must constantly prove their value to be considered worthy of affection. The endless texting, the constant planning, the emotional acrobatics, these aren't signs of love. They are signs of a man who doesn't yet believe he is enough simply by existing. When that man stops chasing, something quiet and important happens inside him. He starts sleeping better. He starts noticing that he had interest, hobbies, friendships, and a sense of humor that he had slowly sacrificed on the altar of someone else's approval. He starts liking himself again, tentatively, then more confidently. And out of that reclamation, something attractive genuinely emerges, not as a tactic, as a consequence. Because confidence isn't something you perform for others, it's something that grows in the space you stop giving away. The man who returns to himself, who stops organizing his emotional life around the fluctuating approval of someone who hasn't fully chosen him, that man becomes, almost paradoxically, far more worthy of love, more grounded, more present, more capable of the kind of deep reciprocal relationship that most people say they want, but few are actually prepared to receive. One more story. This one is different. Sarah is 28, successful, educated, confident. She was used to men chasing her, not because she was cruel about it, she wasn't, but because it had always been that way. Men put in the effort. She responded when she felt like it. That was the rhythm she'd known. Then she meets a man named James. James is warm, engaged, genuinely interested, but he doesn't chase. When she gives him a short reply, he doesn't double text with increasingly desperate energy. When she takes 2 days to respond, he takes 2 days to respond. When she's vague about plans, he makes other plans. Sarah finds herself doing something she hasn't done in years. She thinks about him when he hasn't texted. She checks her phone. She initiates. She pursues. And the experience is disorienting, not because it's unpleasant, but because it forces her to confront something she had never had to articulate before. I have been so used to being chased that I never developed the muscle of choosing. She falls genuinely, deeply in love with James. Not because he played games, he didn't. But because in his groundedness, his refusal to over-pursue, his comfortable sense of self, she encountered something she had rarely found in the men who came before him. Someone she had to be present to keep. That's the secret buried at the center of all of this. The chase doesn't just harm the chaser, it also robs the person being chased of the chance to develop genuine desire. When everything is given before it is chosen, the choice never fully forms. Pursuit without reciprocity doesn't create love, it creates a habit of receiving. And habits don't know how to ache when the supply runs out. But desire built on genuine mutual choosing, that's a different animal entirely. Here is where I want to slow down, because this conversation tends to get weaponized by men who use it to justify coldness or emotional unavailability, and by commenters who will hear this video and conclude it's an argument for manipulation or resentment. It isn't. The point isn't that men should stop caring. The point is that men should stop caring more than the person they're caring for cares back. There is a form of love, the truest form, that can only exist between two people who have both chosen each other. Not one person who chose and one person who consented to being chosen. Not one person who showed up and one who merely permitted it. Love isn't the presence of effort. Love is the presence of mutual effort. And anything short of that, no matter how sincere, no matter how long sustained, is not a relationship. It is an audition that never ends. The man who stops chasing isn't abandoning love. He is refusing to perform love in an empty theater, and maybe, just maybe, in walking off that stage, he creates the first real possibility of the story both people actually wanted. Not a performance, a conversation, not a chase, a meeting. There's an old idea in physics that two bodies will always fall toward the one with greater mass. The greater the mass, the stronger the pull. For too long, we have taught men to create gravity through effort, through constant motion, constant reaching, constant pursuit, as though love was something you could run fast enough to catch. But the men who have stopped chasing, the ones who have sat down, gone quiet, returned to themselves, they have discovered something the running never allowed them to feel. You don't create gravity through motion. You create it through mass, through substance, through weight. And when a man finally stops running and simply stands still in the full weight of who he actually is, not performing, not pursuing, not auditing his own worthiness against someone else's fluctuating interest, something extraordinary happens. Some women walk away, and that tells him everything. Some women, the right ones, walk toward him, and that tells him something too. The chase was never the point. The point was always to become someone worth walking toward. If this hit different, share it with someone who needed to hear it. And drop in the comments, are you the one who chases or the one who waits to be chased? Be honest, this is a safe space.